Well, your input matters. That's the message from the Charlotte City Council this week as Charlotte residents were invited to attend two virtual webinars on the 14 new Charlotte Future 2040 community area plans and revised policy maps. And the Planning, Design, and Development Department set the webinars up so residents had that opportunity to be able to share their input on everything. I want to welcome in Mayor Pro Tem Danté Anderson. Thank you so much for being here and discussing Charlotte's future. When you look at these webinars of what's going on, what did people really need to know? And what did you learn from people engaging with the feedback?
Yes, this is a great opportunity for our residents to understand how their communities will be impacted by the 2040 comprehensive plan, right? And these community area plans are meant to really bring to life that comprehensive plan and connect the dots with the UDO that was passed a couple of years ago. So I want all residents to understand how their neighborhood might change, the projected growth in that neighborhood. That's identified in these community area plans. What are some of the place types that are superimposed on various different neighbors and within the community, as well as land use opportunities. And so it's really important. If you care about your neighborhood and the fabric of it and how it's going to look, you got to pay attention to this.
What were some of the surprises that you really found? I mean, let's talk about the turnout for the webinars and then also maybe what people were really saying.
Yes. Well, one thing I want to say is if we back up a little bit, council has been having this conversation around ensuring that residents have an opportunity to provide feedback. And so we as a council said, hang on, we don't want to adopt this particular, well, there are 14 of them,
right?
But these 14 community area plans until we ensure that community has an opportunity to provide feedback. And so that's what we did. We pushed back the adoption date and we asked staff to really lay out opportunities from webinars, from neighborhood community meetings and so forth to ensure that residents have an opportunity to provide feedback. So we have had over 900 comments since April on these 14 community area plans, which is good. If you think about touch points around a plan, that's relatively good. But we need more because here's the thing about those community area plans. They're going to live and exist for quite some time. And so the more touch points that we can have, the more input that we have, the better off those area plans will be.
And when you look at what people are saying, what was the most, I guess, thing that made you go, wow, I maybe didn't consider that, or wow, this helps me take this back to, the committee and talking about this of what moving forward looks like?
Yep. One of the surprises for me, I can just give you an example for District 1. One surprise for me is that some areas in Charlotte have what we call small area plans, and they've already laid out place types and they've taken in future growth, et cetera. But when you look at some of these small area plans, the Cherry neighborhood is a great example. They have a small area plan. The small area plan looks a little bit different than this particular updated cap, right? And so that was some surprise to me. And so as I was talking to some neighborhood leaders, they wanted to ensure that the place types that were assigned this time around really would ensure that the charm of Cherry continues to be protected, but also allow some growth.
Well, I love that we have you here on a day when we were able to find out the mid-year briefing from CMPD. Any surprises when they're now saying that crime is down here in the Charlotte area?
Yes. For me, and it's more so probably because I have the inside scoop of things that are going on, I wasn't surprised because I know that our officers and our leadership at CMPD had put forth a pretty comprehensive plan on how to address crime in certain hot spots throughout the community. And so I knew that they were doing that and being very thoughtful about it. But here's the thing about crime. If one act of crime occurs, then crime is up for you, right?
Because it's talked about. It's in the media. It's just like what happened on Sunday. In your district, it's obviously now people feel like, well, is it safe? So how do you respond to that?
Well, as I said, one particular occurrence is one too many in my eyes. And so for the issues that occurred, the two incidents that occurred this past weekend, there were several people who were out on a weekend trying to have a good time because good, safe fun. And why shouldn't you do that? It's summertime. You should be able to enjoy yourself. And so what you had was some individuals who were not participants at this establishment come to this area and just very senselessly pull out guns and begin to shoot, right? And it makes no sense. And so what we know is that we had several plainclothes officers in that area. So we really could not have asked CMPD to have more of a presence because there were several officers there. However, we can be smarter about how we treat these bars and these clubs when it's closing time.
Right.
Because we know there are going to be a lot of people, an influx of folks coming inside to outside. And so we need to make sure that there's a proper presence there. But we also have to make sure that these club owners and bar owners make sure that their security protocols are upgraded as well and make sure that they're able to handle the influx of folks.
Were you surprised at all when people felt like they're blaming city government and city council, that's the problem? What is your response to that? Just so people can really understand where council is coming from, where CMPD is coming from, how everybody's trying to work together. But there are people who are going to do bad things.
Absolutely. And that's probably the crux of the issue. And so, I'm always surprised when city council sort of gets brought into the conversation.
Right.
But I understand it because we are a large entity. We are the board of directors of the city. And so I can understand why some would say, hey, what is city council doing?
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what city council's doing. We have dedicated millions of dollars for violence prevention programs, youth involvement programs, and we have certainly protected our CMPD officers and first responders, so fire as well, to make sure that they are protective. They have the gear that they want if they need it. They have programs. They have everything they want, right? And so we invest in them. We make sure they're well paid, and we actually work very closely with them to ensure that they are doing the best that they can to protect the city. But here is the thing. It takes more than just us.
Right.
Alicia, I saw literally some footage a couple weeks ago, a young man standing in front of a house, and he had pulled out a gun out of a backpack, and he was pointing and shooting this gun in broad daylight. That's the area that we need help in. CMPD, Charlotte City Council, we need help with that. Why is this young man feeling like it's perfectly fine for him to pull out a firearm and shoot
in broad daylight
in a neighborhood with kids playing out in the street, people walking about, walking their dogs? We need that help to help connect with our youth to ensure that they understand there are better ways to solve disputes.
And that's where you have the community programs that come in, with parents get involved, with other neighbors getting involved, with aunts and uncles getting involved, and making sure that you're just not having kids out on the street with idle time.
Absolutely. And we need the parents specifically to ask their youth, what are they doing? Where are they going? Take some accountability for their kids. I personally consider anyone under 25
a kid.
Yes. Because, the brain isn't fully developed. The frontal lobe, there's medical data that says, you're still forming and developing. We need parents. We need community to be involved. We need nonprofit organizations to stand up programs. We will support them. The council will support them. But we need everyone to circle wagons around this. This is really an epidemic for the United States of America. We are just very comfortable with gun violence, and we almost just accept it like jaywalking or something. We have to get snapped out of that, and we need the entire community to help us.
Speaking of help, I just want to read your quote. This is when you were running to be Mayor Pro Tem, and you said, I'm here helping to forge a better solution for the city who has birthed me and for the city that we all love and call the Queen City. So this was personal for you.
Oh, 1,000%. I grew up in public housing. I have faced housing insecurity. I've faced food insecurity. But you know what got me through? teachers and people in my community
Show
who
the care.
cared about me, who asked what I was doing. If they saw that I was doing something that they thought was not right, they would call me out about it. They would tell my parents about it. I was involved in extracurricular activities. I took academics seriously. And that's what we need. If
Right.
you think about years ago when I was growing up, there were extracurricular activities for the kids to do that really didn't involve, thousands of dollars. But today, it's hard for parents to find things for their kids to do during the summertime
It's
and after
expensive.
school unless they have the funds.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old.
know.
I definitely know.
Yes.
And you're always trying to find activities for people to do. But just as you said, everybody doesn't have the means to help and to be able to pay for the services or the program. So, but there's a lot that the city is doing. I do want to highlight that because I think sometimes that gets overlooked, whether that's opening a swimming pool, whether that's, understanding this whole creative center they have now for people who want to explore the creative side, and things that are there. There are programs, people just living in Charlotte, I don't know if they always know about the programs.
Yes, and that's part of the biggest issue. I can say for the city of Charlotte, we have embraced the arts.
Yeah.
We have created spaces for our residents to be able to participate and be creative and express themselves. There are programs. We just actually had a class of new CMS graduates participate in our E2E program where they've become employees of the city of Charlotte right after graduating high school with good paying jobs, right? So they don't have to worry about whether they have a job. Now we got to worry about making sure they have good housing, and good transportation.
It is very expensive to live here in the Queen City. So when you talk about affordable housing and the 2040 plan, and for people who are concerned about making ends meet, what's kind of your message that you're trying to get out or council's trying to be able to get out?
I think the key message is the secret is out about Charlotte.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
Everybody wants to live
great
here.
Place. We have hundreds of people moving here daily, which is incredible. And we love the growth. And I want to say, by the way, that being a city of growth is really an advantage and a privilege. We don't want to be a city that is shrinking. We don't want that. We want to be a city that's growing, because if we're growing, then we have the tax funds to be able to provide services. We have the opportunity to stand up programs and invite more people into participating in community. So we want that.
And your district, I mean, just of where you talk about geography, I mean, you're talking about Plaza Midwood, Dilworth, Greer Heights, Freedom Park, Myers Park, Eastover, Elizabeth, Chantilly. So many of these neighborhoods are growing, are becoming extremely popular. But it's a difference that you're seeing in these different areas. So, I mean, your district alone, I mean, you have a lot of people who come shopping and go to restaurants. And then you also have people who just want to live there, but be able to afford the areas. So with what you're seeing of the 2040 plan, any more insight you can give people watching of what they need to know, how they can get involved, how they can be able to still have their voice be heard?
Absolutely. So, just with my area, for example, as you mentioned, we have so many diverse communities.
Yes.
And yet, even in those diverse communities, there's still what's homogeneous is the activity. There's so much activity and vibrancy. And so for anyone who is, whether they're living in District 1 or any of the other districts, there's still ways in which you can get involved with this, with the community area plans. One way is you can go to cltfuture2020.com.
Okay.
And at that site, you can set up a one-on-one communication with staff around your feedback or input into the plan. So they will set up a one-on-one with you and walk you through any of the areas of concern for one of the 14 areas that you live in. Even if you don't live in a particular area, so you might live in a part of Charlotte, but you're very concerned about an area that you work in and it doesn't coincide with where you live. Staff will work with you on that. So you can definitely do that. You can ask them to come out if you have an organized neighborhood association. They come out to neighborhood association meetings. They've come out to several of my neighborhood association meetings and provide presentations, input.
Have you been able to see change, like with somebody who's like, hey, no, I feel strongly about this, to once they hear information, they all of a sudden go, well, I can see,
Yeah.
a different side. I can see how this will be able to help the economy.
Absolutely. There's been change, and I would say like informed change on both sides.
Okay.
One is from the staff's perspective. Sometimes when they get feedback around what residents are saying,
Mhm.
and typically, like I said, these are like residents that are really already tapped into the
Right.
community area
Right.
plans.
Mhm.
When they talk about place types, when they talk about things that they want to see in a community, sometimes the staff will say, you know what, we did not plan for that, but we hear what you're saying. And so we're going to expand some opportunities
Mhm.
for place types. And I've seen that occur within District 1. I've also seen it on the other side where, some residents are very strong and passionate about
Right.
certain aspects. And after talking to staff and understanding what staff is saying, they're a little bit more tampered down and they're like, we get it. We get that we need more housing stock.
Mhm.
We get that we need more diverse price point
Right.
housing stock. And so we have to mix it up a little bit.
So I do want to ask you before I open up to you to if anything that I missed, but obviously in the 2040 plan, one of the most controversial issues or the biggest concerns, I would say, is the allowance of duplexes and triplexes, where you have areas where it's zoned for single family homes.
Mhm.
And people, I think, have heard bits of this. For people who haven't really followed exactly, all the meetings and all the ways they can get involved. Let's go into that. What do people need to know if they are concerned? What can they do if they are concerned? Because I think, just as you said, there might be another piece that they don't know.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. So, what I will say is that historically, throughout the city of Charlotte, duplexes in particular have been a very, very popular housing type.
Mm.
And it's been a popular housing type throughout the city. So, if you go over to Myers Park or Freedom Park or Dilworth, you will see duplexes
Mhm.
right beside single family
Because
detached
that is a way
homes.
to be able to have affordable places to
Absolutely.
live.
And then if sometimes when you go in other areas of the city as well that are less affluent,
Mhm.
you will see duplexes. I think the nuance really are the triplexes and also the quadplexes.
Mhm.
Those are the ones that the neighborhood residents have said, well, wait a minute. How can we ensure that this will fit the character of our neighborhood? And so one of the things that staff has done is said for quadplexes, we have reduced the areas in which quadplexes can be stood up
Okay.
within the city, right?
Mhm.
And so it can't just be stood up on a particular lot. It has to be a particular lot based in a specific area
Mhm.
and allow for ingress and egress that's proper. For the triplex, what we have said is we need to make sure that for triplex you have proper distance
Right.
from those single family detached homes,
Mhm.
that if you're going to have a driveway, that the driveway is established properly. And so the fear that I've seen from residents is that they don't want individuals looking into their backyards.
Right. Right.
They feel like, hey, we want to have the feel of having a single family detached home without having lots of people on that next lot.
Mhm.
And that's largely addressed by design, addressed by setbacks, and making sure that it occurs on specific lots in different parts of the
Right.
neighborhoods.
Well, and if, of course, you being from here, Charlotte being your home, I mean,
Yes.
you have seen lots of change.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure you just drive around. I'm from Atlanta, and I know every time I go home to Atlanta, I'm like, wow.
Exactly.
So I'm sure for people who are from here, I think that there's a little bit of reserve, but they're also open at the same time.
hmm
Anything else I didn't ask you? Want to make sure that people understand. I think the biggest thing of somebody watching here saying, "How can I still get my voice in?" I think is one of the concerns.
Yes. One of the things I do want to address is if you live in a specific area of these community area plans and you really have no idea what the future of your neighborhood looks like, a part of these area plans identify the projected growth
Mhm.
in your community as well as the jobs growth in your community. So you can actually go to these plans and say, "Huh, right now this is where we're sitting and I see that my community is projected to grow by 15%,
Mhm.
or that we're going to have an increase of jobs, or not really an increase of jobs at all, and they're going to stay flat." that will inform whether you live in a job desert,
Yeah.
which means you really need to be advocating for economic development and vitality in those spaces, or hey, a whole lot of people really want to live in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So let me plan around how I want to plan for my family, and my neighbors can plan to receive this growth, right? And you'll see both and throughout the entire city of Charlotte. So I would encourage everyone to provide feedback on these plans, to reach out, to go to cltfuture2020.com to set up a one-on-one, to reach out to me if you live in District 1 or any of the council members. We will certainly take that feedback and provide it to staff. But this is the time to, number one, be informed about your neighborhood and the projected growth, because there's so much rich data in these area plans. But also, secondly, to understand how your voice can make a difference in the place types and the alignment of land use in your community on a go-forward basis.
And you can't complain if you don't speak up.
Exactly. Exactly. And I will say, council has done so much to say we need more input. Please give us more input, right? Because we don't want anyone, once we adopt these plans, we don't want that Tuesday morning someone to say, hey, I never heard about this.
Exactly.
I want to provide input. No, provide it now. We're here to help. Staff is here to help. Lean into what's going on in your city, whether you work in that neighborhood, you live in that neighborhood, or you play in that neighborhood.
All right. Well, we just appreciate you being here on Queen City News. I'm Alicia Barnes, Mayor Pro Tem Danté Anderson. It's just a pleasure having you. You're a wealth of knowledge, and feel free to stop by anytime. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.